black, red, white. Much like life, art starts out empty, blank, unfulfilled. But soon, something begins to happen. Something wonderful. Something that can only be described as art.
Hi, my name is Kandace Feorene, and I am an aspiring filmmaker. I love movies, as you can see. I always love movies, and I will always love movies. I grew up watching movies like most of us do, and I fell in love. However, when people asked me what I wanted to do with my life, I never had an answer. Until one day I realized, people get paid to make and produce those movies I love so much. So here I am, an aspiring filmmaker. And hopefully, one day, if someone other than myself is watching this, I can call myself a filmmaker. "2020 has made us all think. I am no exception. We were drawn to thinking about what we find important in life. As I have explained, movies are important to me. When thinking of what to do for my senior project, I thought of pointing out the hypocrisy we saw in this last year, and what we thought of as essential. To me, films are, without a doubt, essential, yet the arts were deemed as not. During lockdown, if I didn't have movies to watch, I probably would not have been able to stay sane. People always say that movies are an escape, and that was definitely a way to escape during lockdown. I think people take for granted movies, but I think people realized the power they had during lockdown, because that's all people did was watch movies and television, and they used it as an escape. And if we didn't have that, then we would have just been in our own minds, in our own house for all that time. You couldn't see anybody, you couldn't go anywhere, but you could see movies. You could go to all the places the movies took you to. You could see all the wonderful things movies show you while we were in lockdown, and I think that's beautiful. And I think it is wonderful that we can escape while we watch movies. And I think people take it for granted. And I think during lockdown they kind of realized how powerful movies can be as an escape.
I worked a lot, more than I would otherwise. I spent a lot of time outdoors, which was nice. And I probably watched more Netflix than I should have.
I watched TV and I watched movies. Literally the only thing you can do.
Well, work did keep me somewhat busy because, I teach at YSU. We moved online. So I did, speaking of film, I did in fact learn how to edit videos. Tried a couple different softwares. So that was fun and exciting. I did watch a lot of Netflix and Disney Plus. And I did a lot of embroidery.
During lockdown, I mostly just watched Netflix, movies, Hulu.
Personally, I don't know what I would do without movies in my life, because they are such a big part of my life. Obviously, I want to make them, and so they're a big part of my life. And when I think about what the whole world would do without movies, now that they're such an integral part of our lives, I honestly don't know what the world would do. I know we didn't have movies 120 years ago and people lived on, but now that we've had it and we're so used to it on a daily basis, and that's one of the only things we do for fun now is watch movies, and because they're so readily available, unlike theater, which is film's parent, essentially, it is available to mostly everyone, everywhere. To see the theater, it has to be available to you. You have to drive to it. You have to go. it's an event. But a movie, now everybody just has all the movies available they want at their houses with streaming, TV, the internet. So because we're so used to it nowadays, I don't see how we can live without movies. And now, because movies are more than just entertainment, they really educate and they really let you know what's going on in the world, other parts of the world that you would never know about. And I think it's wonderful that we have that vehicle to watch and to educate ourselves with. Yeah, I don't know what I would do without movies. I really don't. Especially, like I said, during lockdown, that was a way to stay sane.
I can't imagine my life without the arts, or any of our lives without the arts. In particular, film. I do love film, and I think it would be really hard to not have this art form. I imagine that before, films, hundreds of years ago, they had other forms of art that they were able to connect with the way that we do today with films and TV. But my life without films, I think, would be a lot less rich, a lot less full of empathy. As I said before, I think that films help me to understand better, like, my conditions, my problems, my issues, and know that other people have had that before me. I think that film, in particular for us nowadays, where we like to see things electronically, we like to see things, visual, we need it now. We can't wait until, a week from Saturday when we can go to the theater to see something. I think that films enrich our lives and make us happier, definitely, and also really help us to understand life better and understand our own lives better.
I honestly don't know what I would do all day. Like, I don't have hobbies. I just like to watch TV and movies, so I think it'd be pretty boring.
Very boring. You wouldn't really know what's outside of your hometown, what you do. You really wouldn't be able to experience anything outside of your own world.
So film is much like theater, which kind of is film's parent, right? Film is an empathy machine. You connect on this emotional level with the film to know and feel along with these characters. And it kind of brings you into the world. And so you get to experience something that you might not get to experience otherwise, whether it's gaining a perspective on somebody else's life. Maybe it's kind of self-inserting and like going along with the hero. You get to, get the same sense of triumph when somebody has struggled and then they succeed, and you can just connect to that same tribulation and kind of get a little part of the triumph. Going back to this, idea of storytelling and theater as this kind of group experience. The earliest treatise that we have on theater, and let's face it, film is going to be related, is a Greek philosopher named Aristotle. And he talks about the ability of theater to create catharsis, where you get pulled into this story. You and everybody else watching it with you is being pulled into this emotional journey. And when the hero experiences this huge turn of events, the audience gets this release of emotion, this catharsis, right? Where you might feel fear or pity or sorrow, and it just kind of takes all that stuff that's been built up in your system and it gives you an outlet to just purge that emotion. And there's an appeal to that. There's a real appeal to just finding this release where you might not, have that avenue in day-to-day life, but by kind of getting into this creative emotional experience, you can embrace and really feel that moment.
the hypocrisy when it comes to the arts and the world is the main reason I'm doing this senior project the way I am. Because in 2020, when things were deemed essential and things were not deemed essential, like the arts, it really made me think about how much the arts mean to people without them even realizing it. I do recognize that to literally live, we do not need things like movies. We need food and water and shelter. But I think we also need a motivation to live. I do think that's essential to live, because if we're not motivated to stay here, then why are we staying here? And I think the arts are our motivation. It's what we find enjoyable in life. It's what we do for fun. And film now especially is such a big industry, a billion-dollar, multi-billion-dollar industry. It's such a prevalent thing in all of our lives. And the fact that in 2020, when non-essential things were shut down and then film sets were shut down, again, I do understand that for those purposes it was needed. We did not need that to survive the year. But the irony of that is that when we were shut down and we were locked down in our houses, what we did was watch movies and watch TV. And if you don't see the irony in that, when people say they want to make movies or they want to make a certain type of art, they want to paint, they want to write, they want to, write poetry, write books, they're always laughed at and looked down upon. They say, find a real job, do something, major in something that will give you a job. And those same people are going home each night asking each other what movies they want to watch. And if that's not hypocritical, then I don't know what is. If you don't have people like me, young people who are striving to make it in these industries, then you're not going to have your entertainments that you rely so heavily on. Yes, there are other things we can do, and we did those things before we had movies 120 years ago. But now that movies are such an integral part of our lives, I can't see us living without it. And the hypocrisy and the irony that is in this world when it comes to movies is astonishing to me. And I really do hope it changes. And I hope people look back on 2020 and see how much they were watching and see how much of an escape that was for them, and that it really got us through. Even though there were no new things being produced, I hope people realize how much film means to people now, especially since we couldn't go anywhere. So we had movies at our house, and that was our escape.
We spend so much time, and love the entertainment value of the arts so much, but then when it comes to, actually valuing that in the career choices of our young people, we tend to be negative about it, or there's some stigma if a young person does decide to go into that. And I think part of that may just be a desire to protect our young people and make sure that whatever they go into ends up being, profitable enough that they're able to live on it. And I think also maybe it's because we want to protect them from disappointment. To do really well in the arts, you have to be kind of at the top of the field, and it's very competitive. And so we are concerned that, they want to become a famous musician, for example, and we're concerned that that's not going to work out for them. And then maybe that's why we don't encourage them to study music, but we tell them to study business or accounting or, something like that. But I think that's a pity. I think that the young people who want to dedicate their lives to the arts, I think that's a beautiful thing. And we need that new generation coming in with new ideas and new creativity. And if we don't have that, then we're in a sad, sad place.
The reality is film, theater, the arts, music, they're tough. They're really tough industries. It can be, you need a lot of dedication and luck to really make it for a career. And I think part of it is concern that, you know, somebody wants to go into this thing and they're not going to be successful because a lot of people want to do it. So there's this stereotype that, one, that it's easy, which isn't true. But two, you can't make a living doing it, which isn't true, but there is truth in that it's difficult. There's some really stereotypical ideas about what it takes to make a living or what jobs in the arts look like. And a lot of people don't necessarily realize, for one, how big the arts industry is, how many actual jobs there are, especially when you look at all of the people it takes to make a film. You know, yeah, making it as an actor is really tough. But if you are, you know, a sound guy or a projection designer or a really good stage manager, you're going to be turning down work. Not everybody sees that aspect of the industry. It's not necessarily glamorous. So part of it is, yeah, concern, I think, and part of it is ignorance of what the industry actually looks like. So I think there's just not necessarily a lot of clear knowledge about what the industry looks like. So they're like, oh yeah, don't go into it because you can't make a living. But that's not true. It's not a real job. Well, that's certainly not true. A lot of people in the industry are highly trained, highly skilled professionals who do very technical and very complicated jobs. People don't always see that. They see the stereotype of, you know, an actor going, what's my motivation? And they don't see the actor going to multiple classes to condition their body, learn a new dance, to learn a new dialect, to study scripts, memorize work for auditions, to improve their voice. They don't see all of that. They see the kind of easy jokes because they certainly want to consume the product.
I know, I want to be involved in the legacy that movies are. I want my name to be somewhere in there, somewhere in the legacy of the thing that makes me happy. I feel badly for those who've never found a passion in life. They're the ones who ask me what I want to do with my life. And when I tell them how passionate I am about movies, they still don't understand why I would want to be involved in something like that. And if you ever felt true passion for anything, you know how strong of a feeling that is, that you can't fight it and you know you need to do it. I just feel horrible for those people because what is life if you're not passionate about what you do?